What is good, everyone? Sorry, running late. As you see, I am solo dolo this week. My tag team partner, Moody the French Fry Fro, is out of town handling some family business. So everything is good. But yeah, you still got your boy the Habasha Hayes here, and we don't miss a week. You might be late, might be running on that CP time, but we don't miss an episode. We are here for episode 46, and it's a packed week of wrestling. But like always, let's start off with these Percy's. And I don't really have much on the deck for Percy's, honestly. It's probably just the fact that we're solo dolo this week. But I mean, the biggest talk of the week is so far has been these NBA playoffs and how wild that's been. The Knicks blowing their lead and whatever it was, and then Tyrese Halliburton running all the way back, trying to hit a 3-pointer to win the game. Ball bounces all the way up in the sky, and then poetically just falls down and goes in for the game tying what he thought was game winning after they made the review. And yeah, Knicks go down 2-0 after losing again last night, and then the same thing's happening on the West. So that's the basketball world. My zone is specifically geared to football, getting ready for football season. But other than that, it's Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully, I can hit these pools open. And when these pools open, I can get into the water and have some fun. But I don't need to waste time and banter when I'm by myself. We could just start and get into the show.
Doors opening. Step back to allow customers to exit.
Crowd. I would say, man, tag team partner Moody is not here. That's our pro is here. That's off the top rope. What's the Up podcast? Weekly. Yeah, of wrestling. Follow us everywhere on social TikTok, Twitter, X, whatever you can call it. We'll be everywhere at the Wrestling podcast. What up, everyone? Episode 46, Wrestling Rehab Podcast, a double or nothing Saturday night battleground. Wonder what that all means, but obviously there's a big weekend in wrestling. We have 2 pop-up shows and a Saturday night's main event. Saturday night's main event, we do not count towards the official scorekeeping of predictions and what we are running, just because those just seem kind of elevated TV shows. So until we find that they are gained a little bit more importance as far as predictions go, they'll be, so far, those will just be kind of fun guesses and it won't count to our predictions. But we do have 2 points on the line with AEW Double or Nothing and NXT Battleground happening both Saturday and Sunday. Or I think both of them are on Sunday, but neither here or there. But let's get into the week. And the first thing we got to start off before we walk into the flagship store is give a big shout out to Darby Allin, who after months took time off from his job at AEW and decided that he wanted to climb Mount Everest and finally completed it on May 17th, top of the world. He put out a tweet. 8:50 local time summit. Good weather was in our favor, but many teams took advantage of the short window as well, which slowed our progress more than expected. But Darby Allin and his team, about 4 other people, made it up to the top of the Mount Everest. Team will savor the moment on top and then start the return back to Camp 4. So Darby Allin did what he wanted to accomplish, and that was get to the top of Mount Everest. And there's nothing you could say but give props to the dude. That is an impressive feat that not many humans can do. They talking about how you could see people just knocking off or passing out as they're on their way up there. So for him and the training and the dedication that he put in to wanting to complete this was amazing. And hopefully he makes it back safe, and then we'll see Darby Allin soon. But that is one of the most impressive things that they were talking about this on the Masked Man show, asking, was this the most impressive thing that Darby Allin has done in his career? That's including anything he's done in AEW or will do in AEW. And Kaz, in his credit, he was talking about how that might be the case. And because, that is just a ridiculous human feat. So to be able to do that, I don't know if an AEW championship or a WWE championship here comes to WWE would be an equivalent to many people, but or how he holds it. But nonetheless, making it to the top of Mount Everest is something that you got to give the man his props for. I mean, we talk about him on the show, and when you watch him wrestling, it's like this dude's like a human crash test dummy. The way he does these coffin drops and just puts his body on the line. What an ultimate way to put your body on the line, but actually succeed and be able to accomplish something that you probably wanted to accomplish for a long time. So, shout out to Darby Allin. Hope to see you back soon on TV. Let's get into the flagship store of Raw and get into this recap. And I'll just start off in general talk for WWE. Their shows have been kind of middle of the pack, mid, if you want to say, mid-stable. Nothing really been too impressive. It seems like we are kind of getting into those, what we talked about last year, the summer grind of just knowing that, okay, yeah, there's a lot of things happening. We got playoffs going on, both hockey and basketball. Holidays are coming up. People are going on vacations. And so it just seems like, I don't know, the interest level, it just seems everything kind of seems like it's on a kind of steady pace, but nothing that really just grabs your attention. But let's get into it. Moody was a little bit higher on this show than I was. He had more things listed out, and he did list some things for him, and he also did leave his predictions. But he did list some things out as far as some of the things that attracted him through the shows throughout the week, and so I'll call those out for him. Specifically for Raw, his highest thing on here was, and he has this as a primo, was the world heavyweight title story. So that's all encompassing with Gunther threatening Logan Paul, Jay kicks Logan Paul, Seth promo with Logan Paul, Jay versus Braun, and then Logan KO's Jay at the end of the show. Personally, for me, I can understand. I'll start with Moody. Okay, and I guess I'm putting words for Moody. But I can understand because there was a lot of good promos within there. Gunther had a really good promo towards Logan Paul. I thought that was really good. Obviously, Jay is going to do his thing, come in and get his licks in because he has his matchup with him this evening at Saturday night's main event. Seth promo versus Logan, I think I got to go back and rewatch that because I'm slipping my mind on that. But the Jay and Braun match, apparently, I did watch it. The Jay Braun match was probably one of the best matches on the show overall. Though I do get a little disappointed when a lot of these matches end in basically a no contest. It just kind of seems like an easy cop out, but we get it. There's a little bit more story to tell, but when it happens so often and not with just in the same storyline, but across multiple storylines, it just kind of leaves you as like, okay, we saw some entertaining match, but to have not a definite conclusion just seems a little bit redundant, as I would say. It seems like we recycle through that process a lot. And then Logan Paul KO's Jay with the brass knucks or whatever, or he has the steel plate in his arm or his hand or whatever it may be. It was cool. It lasted throughout the entire show, so you got to give him credit for that. We talk about that a lot, how we like about having a storyline that kind of threads throughout the entire 2.5 or 3 hour show, depending on which you're watching. For me, I don't have this listed anywhere, and I guess it has to largely do with the Logan Paul of it. Could care less at that. I couldn't care less at that point. So, I mean, he's going to do what he does. He's in the ring with a lot of good people that can, help him look good as well as he's good in his roles as cutting promos in certain cases. He's really good on the mic, and his ring work is still pretty, it's entertaining. I wouldn't say it's like top tier, but it's still entertaining to see what he does for his athleticism and whatnot. But unless something spectacular happens and this man ends up taking the title tonight, which I do not think he's going to do, this is all for naught. And this is just kind of just giving us, it's a weird space because, we have Money in the Bank in like 2 weeks. And so, again, it's a lot of, we're coming off so many different things. We have Backlash. We have Saturday night's main event. We got Money in the Bank. We have all this stuff coming up, and so it just seems there's just a lot of things that we're just trying to meet deadlines, and nothing really feels fleshed out. It just seems like okay, cool. Also, don't like to see Gunther kind of going from one celebrity talking point to another celebrity talking point. I'm just like, okay, when are we? As I'm always going to take Gunther serious. I'm not saying that this impacts his character or makes him look weak or anything. Like it's gonna be very hard for Gunther to lose any kind of appeal. But you do wish that he was spending his time a little bit more valuably rather than focusing on the Pat McAfees and the Logan Pauls of the world. But that's just me. But nonetheless, that was a highlight for Moody in this show for him as for Monday Night Raw. For me, and a lot of the two things that me and Moody did agree upon was Roxanne Perez qualifying for the Money in the Bank, defeating Becky Lynch and Natalia. Kind of the same thing. I do like that Roxanne is in the Money in the Bank. We're getting a nice set of competitors so far with Alexa Bliss, Roxanne. We also got Rhea Ripley, as we'll talk about in a little bit. And then on SmackDown, they added a few more other people, as we'll get to when we talk about SmackDown. But it's good to see Roxanne Perez getting this early look and getting, a really good spot. She's going to be great in this match. I would like to say she might be my pick if I had to pick right now, but I have to see obviously the full lineup and see who else actually makes the full lineup for Money in the Bank on the women's side. But one thing I didn't like in this, I'll go before I get into the one thing I didn't like. I also got to give respects to my girl Natalia. She's looked great in the past couple of weeks, especially because she's been working at another company or popping up at another company, and a little bit more of a MMA fighter kind of environment where she's actually, it seems like, I don't know if it's shoot fighting or if it's still kind of scripted fighting and whatnot, but she's been looking good there, and there seems to be a little bit of an attitude adjustment where it seems like she's probably going to be a little bit more of a fighter type of character. We're taking her actual like ring and fighting experience a little bit more seriously and not just relying on just the heart, relationship that she has. And actually just giving her a little bit more character, because honestly, we just kind of love Natalia for who she is and who she's connected to, and obviously the respected worker that she is. But I think giving her a little bit more of a personality within her character will be beneficial. And I think that's what's been happening the last few weeks with her appearances over at that fighting company. But the one thing that I didn't really enjoy in this was I wish, again, the match kind of ended a little bit more cleaner. We did have a pinfall. Roxanne did hit the pop rocks on Natalia to get the win. But there was a moment where, again, Becky Lynch is in this match, and she's, I think, going for the pin. And then out of nowhere, Lyra, understandably, comes out and then pulls Becky out of the ring. And then she starts scrapping, and that's kind of got Becky out of the situation. And then you're basically left with the one-on-one matchup of Roxanne versus Natalia. Totally understand why that happens from a logistic reasons. Obviously, Becky would seem like a front runner in this situation to qualify for this match, just for the name appearance alone. But obviously, what she did to Lyra a few weeks ago at Backlash, and I think this is the first time since Backlash we've seen Lyra, so it makes sense. I wish it didn't happen during the match. Maybe like she could have took her out before the match and you could have replaced Becky. I understand the whole idea is to protect Becky from actually taking the pin. It actually make them look good, because this is a good trio of women that you would love to see in this match. I just wish that if Becky was going to be in the match, I wish it didn't have to have the face champion pull her out in the middle of a match. I wish if that was going to happen, maybe she did it before the match. But either way, does it really make a difference? He's still a face, kind of attacking a person, whether it happened before the match and taking them out and eliminating their opportunity, or doing it during the match. I don't know if it makes much of a difference. I guess you could flip your coin. Personally, I would have did it before the match, just so we could have had a final ending, a clean ending to the match, rather than it being ended up in a one-on-one matchup once you got Becky out of the ring and kind of away from the environment. The other matchup that we agreed upon as well was the Finn Balor JD over AJ and Penta. via Americano interference. Again, when you got these type of four men in this ring, you know you're gonna get a very entertaining match. You also know that with the Judgment Day, you're also going to get a whole bunch of interference, both from the Judgment Day members and then now with the Chad Gable Americano Grande, whatever you want to call his name. Again, this is just another one of those patterns where it's just like, okay, how many of these matches, especially on the Judgment Day side, where it's just going to be constant interference and it's just, can we get something clean every once in a while, or do we always just have to wait for clean endings on pop-up shows? So that's where that's why I keep it mid, is for the fact that it's just another instance where we just end these matches without having uh a clean finish. It's always got to be some type of interference. It's going to be some type of no contest or DQ. And so again, no, can't hate on the actual quality of the match. What you're going to get is going to be spectacular. You just wish that you weren't stuck in this pattern with WWE matches where it feels like it's just going to end with the typical. You can know that if you're going to see a Judgment Day match in any form, whoever it's in the match, there's going to be some form of interference, and it's just going to be like, okay, like rinse, wash, repeat, rinse, wash, repeat. Like, can we do something a little bit different? Are these people not watching tape? Like, what are we doing? So, just for the repetitiveness of the ending of the matches, that's why we put it in mid rising, or at least in the mid stable to mid rising. Um, Moody has this as his other mid for the show. I find this hard to rank just for what happened during this. And this is Rhea Ripley, also qualified for the Money in the Bank tournament. And that that is not the biggest story of this matchup. The biggest story of this matchup, and I have this as shake because we don't have this as any kind of specific place we could probably put this that's be appropriate, but this is definitely no shake by any means. But my birthday sis, Zoe Stark, had a brutal knee injury coming off the top rope trying to hit a cross, not a leg drop. It was I forget, but she had a serious knee injury where she came down and it went the opposite direction and it did not look good. The match kind of paused for a little bit. You saw the EMT kind of come in and kind of check her out, and I think they took her out. It was a pretty serious, and I'm not sure what the original outcome, if it changed anything, if Zoe was supposed to qualify or not. I highly doubt it because you have someone like Rhea in the match that that it'd be kind of hard to see Rhea not qualify for this match. But um, it's also happened when Kairi Sane also just came back from injury as well. So kind of one of the unfortunate aspects is like you get someone coming back from injury and then immediately in that same match, someone like Zoe Stark, who works her ass off, immediately gets hurt and is going to be out for a long time. So yes, Rhea qualified for the match. Think that was probably an obvious outcome to kind of predict, but no one could have predicted the serious injury that could have happened to Zoe Stark. And so the get well soon, Zoe. I'm a big fan, obviously, because same birthdays, but also I also appreciate your work. I like your style and your gimmick. It also sucks because you also just did lose two of your tag team partners through actual releases, in Sonya Deville and Shayna Baszler, and so that just kind of comes at a hard time. Where again, now you were supposed to be in this singles push, and then now all of a sudden you got to go through 6 months of rehabilitation for your knee. So hopefully everything works out and you're able to come back bigger, better, and stronger, and we'll see you sooner rather than later. So get well soon, Zoe Stark. Other things on the show. Speaking of Roxanne, this is not specifically directly to the actual match that Roxanne was in, but Moody had this in his shake. But Roxanne is a Judgment Day prospect. So we did see last week that Roxanne was brought in by Finn Balor. If you've seen in the big background of their conversations, of Judgment Day conversations, you've seen Finn Balor talking to Roxanne in the background. And so finally, we actually brings her to the clubhouse. She brought some chicken nuggets or tendies to Dominic last week and other gifts for others. And so doesn't seem like Raquel is digging it at the moment. Obviously, Liv is not around right now. She's filming a movie, so there is a bit of a vacuum that could be filled, but obviously that vacuum is only going to be filled for so long because I believe Liv is going to be back within the next couple of weeks or so. So that's going to be an interesting rivalry to see between Roxanne Perez and Liv Morgan. So that's something to keep an eye on. Eye on. That's a weird phrase. And then finally, to end the show, for the flagship show on the Shakes, Sheamus defeating Grayson Waller in Theory Laughs. We're still doing this. Okay. Cool to see Sheamus get a win, but again, we've been teasing the breakup of A-Town Down Under for how long? Me and Moody were so set on it months ago, back in it feels like October or November, when it really seems like it was bubbling that Grayson Waller Austin Theory was actually going to finally stand up for himself against Grayson Waller. But they're still here together as a team. They're still teasing it. I've kind of given it up. If you want Austin Theory to be a face, good luck. Because for other people that might work. For me, I'm like, you've shown too much to be an idiot that I'm like, I can't give you, at least within this realm of you turning on or standing up for yourself against Grayson Waller. I'm like, bro, this should have been happened. So good luck with that. But that is everything that we have for the flagship show. It was a pretty all right show. Again, most of these WWE shows have been seems like they've just been running on the same treadmill for the last couple of weeks. I don't know if we're just trying to get some Money in the Bank. So when we get some Money in the Bank, or past Money in the Bank, then we can kind of set our sights onto the major one of SummerSlam. But I don't know. It seems like we've been running on a treadmill. And that kind of goes into our next point of the show as we walk straight into the bodega of NXT. And NXT, again, I don't know what is with WWE shows, but there just seems to be like, okay, yeah, we're just running on treadmills. And so they got NXT Battleground tonight or Sunday night, so we'll see how that plays out. There's some interesting stuff to come out of it. But as far as the go-home show for the pay-per-view, I was like, okay, this was a mid show. Most of the WWE shows this week were mid. I'm not going to just even belabor the point. I think the best show this week was probably Dynamite, and they did a good job getting hyped up for Double or Nothing this weekend as well. But things that Moody and I agree upon, we don't have any primos for NXT, but we do have similar mids in the fact that we both liked the Miles Bourne promo to Obafemi, and then the debut of Jasper Troy, the LFG men's winner, and he attacks Obafemi on his first night. And this is earlier in the night. Ava also gave out both their contracts. I forget the other woman's name on LFG. Sorry, I did not watch LFG, but I know they try to put it over. They are officially members of NXT, and he already made a statement. He's like, I'm going to make a name for myself by the end of this night. And he sure enough did by attacking Obafemi. So that is going to be an interesting connection right there. He has some really good size. I haven't watched any LFG, but you could just tell by his size that he's a pretty, intimidating guy. He looks paired well in the ring with those stare downs, like eventually that he's going to have with Obafemi. Those are going to look good. But again, he's only been. I did look up his cage side seats when I did see that this happened earlier in the week, and he's a fresh pup. He's a fresh pup. He's only been wrestling for 2 years, and all that wrestling training is coming from WWE. So this is going to be a great learning experience. But hey, if you are able to win, the LFG and then immediately come into NXT, they must be really high on you, and you've been really impressing. So I'm going to be curious to see what comes out of that. And then Miles Bourne, again, are you going to win tonight? No. Probably not, but hey, this is a really big look for you, a good look, and you did well cutting your mic promos, and I forget what you left them off with, but it was strong. And so definitely, do I think you're going to win this weekend? No, but you definitely got me intrigued to see your match and see how well you do and how well you come out of it. Hopefully no Corey Catch crew does not screw you over. Charlie Dumps, I'm looking at you, but I've got a feeling that Oba's going to make you look good. You might look like you're going to get the win, but your boy's going to turn on you because he's jealous. So, but that's early prediction for there. Other things that Moody and I agree upon is Kalani defeating Zarya for a North American title #1 contender match. there seems to be a little bit of, I want to say friction, but misunderstanding between Zarya and Sol Ruka that they've been bubbling up for the last few weeks, and Kalani's been taking advantage of it. She doesn't really need to take advantage of, like, she's good on her own, but it's good to see her kind of, again, we've talked about Kalani when she first won the North American Championship being just supreme face. Now it's like, okay, and when she won the championship, I told her, I was like, there's a lot of impressive challengers that are coming from that NXT women's side. But hey, we got Moody in the chat. What's up? But it was gonna be like, how is this supreme babyface going to get over, or at least gonna survive this gauntlet of just these tough badass women? She did a great job. She was a great inaugural champion, North American champion. Slipping to how she lost the match, but at the end of the day, it worked out, and now she's going to a pivot where she's gaining a little bit more attitude. And I'm really curious to see how this attitude, full progression kind of turns out to be. But I'm enjoying it. I can see something happening this weekend with that matchup, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But the Kalani transformation has been interesting, as well as the Zarya and Sol Ruka misunderstanding. Because I wouldn't put it as a rivalry or just like someone's gonna turn on somebody. It just seems like a lot of unfortunate misunderstandings that just kind of just to be plaguing one or the other during their matches. But again, I mean, Zarya should be hungry as well, trying to get a North American Championship. So it'll be sad moment when they eventually break up. When we know when that's eventually coming down the line. Finally, NXT ended the show. This is Moody's last mid for the show. He had the Joe Hendry defeating Trick Williams in a music battle. Trick rapped. Joe did his guitar singing. It is what it is. I can understand Moody. I can understand why Moody wouldn't enjoy this. Trick's rapping. It's all right. It's good for TV. Joe is entertaining. Again, for the go home, to have this as being the last bit of the go home, is it fun? Sure. Is it something that I would want it? Probably not, but it could. I don't necessarily hate it. I don't have it anywhere. It's not anything that I would write home about, but I can understand why somebody would like it. If Moody wants to put his thoughts in on the chat, if he's still in the chat of why you like this, that would be helpful. But other than that, let's get into the shakes. Moody had two of them. Lola Vice defeating Fallon Henley. That was a pretty entertaining match. Nice to see Fallon Henley get some kind of lead a lot of it. But Lola Vice, again, she has a really good finishing move with that knockout, that spinning knockout. And then the debut of Sean Legacy, who I'm not familiar with, but he looked good in the match with Javon Evans and Ashante the Adonis, and getting the win. So look at that. We got 3 new debuts, and at least 2 of them made impacts. We haven't seen the third one actually in the ring yet, but entertaining nonetheless. Moody added in the comments, the rapping was so weak. Trick shot taking a guitar was cool though. So that's why, I guess that's what made it jump for you in the to a mid. And then Sean Legacy wrestles for Evolve and Pro Wrestling Noah before NXT. So that is some education for your ass that Moody is dropping while he's on vacation. So good looking out while helping that out. But other than that, I really didn't have much for NXT either. Like, again, a lot of these WWE shows, it feels like you can kind of live without having to worry about missing them, which is not to say is a good. I mean, I'm glad personally that I can kind of, develop my mental to other things or just kind of do other things. But also, it's not really a good when you can kind of feel like, oh, I could skip this week. It really wasn't much. And then even when you go back and try to catch up on it, you'd be like, yeah, I made the right call. I didn't really miss out on much. So it is what it is. But hey, it's part of entertainment. That's what you got to do. Is try to get people entertained. And if you don't feel like you're getting your money's worth or your time's being spent well, that's your right as a customer as you watch this stuff. So that is it for the bodega. But as before we get into AEW Dynamite and the Go Home show for Dynamite before AEW Double or Nothing, there was news to come out about our tribal chief, the original tribal chief, Roman Reigns, is going to, well, not going to, but he's in talks to play Akuma in the Street Fighter movie. And this is reported by Deadline, as well as a few other men that was listed out for the Street Fighter movie. We have Andrew Koji. He was in Bullet Train. Jason Momoa, obviously everyone knows from Game of Thrones. Noah Centineo, he was in Warfare. That recently came out. It's a really great film by Andrew Garland, who also does 28 Days Later and 28 Years Later. And then, yeah, Roman Reigns, which is funny reading the Deadline. They don't list him as a WWE wrestler. They list him as the Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw, because this is Deadline. This is Hollywood. But yeah, they're all in talks to star in Legendary's live-action Street Fighter movie based on Capcom video games, sources tell. And so, big looks for Roman. Obviously, it's not a surprise. WWE loves to have those crossovers. I mean, you've seen it with The Rock and how that's trying to transform. And so, Roman Reigns in a Street Fighter movie, that seemed like that might be an interesting look, especially though, again, with video game adaptations of movies haven't always been the best. We've had a couple good ones the last couple of years, but especially some of these wrestling ones, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. It says we got Mortal Kombat, the second Mortal Kombat coming in. The first one, it was like, all right, and the first one, that the remake, not the original ones back in the 90s, the ones that came out around COVID time, I want to say 2020. Those were pretty. That was all right. It was kind of whack. They introduced a new character that like is not even in the games, and it's just like, okay, this is kind of an OP powered character and not even that interesting. And you didn't even get the tournament. The tournament's the Mortal Kombat tournament is actually supposed to happen right now. So in the second film. So we'll see how this turns out and how they take it. Obviously, there was a Street Fighter movie back in the 90s with Jean-Claude Van Damme that, it's kind of like you love to hate it. It's not a good movie, but it's not a bad movie. It's kind of in between. But nonetheless, it should be interesting. I'm going to look that up for you, Moody, to see who is Jason Momoa in talks to play. If the website page loads up. Doesn't list out any character names. I think I found the Akuma on like a Wrestling Observer website, so I would have to do a bit of research. But what do you think his role is? And Bison, Ryu. Bison would be interesting. That'd be interesting. I gotta look him up. It's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out. But we could definitely get into. Okay, that's pretty dope. Yeah, you just sent me a picture of Akuma, Roman Reigns as a digital version of Akuma, or is that Ryu? I haven't played Street Fighter in so long, but it's probably one of my. I'm a Mortal Kombat fan. Street Fighter was always a little too fast for me. I was like, oh man, the button controls. I'm like, I wasn't that good at it. I would get my ass kicked in Street Fighter, but still enjoy the game nonetheless. And I'm gonna be interested when this movie comes out and see how it plays out. But so far, we're in talks. We'll keep y'all updated when there's news on them being official, and we actually have more news to see if Roman Reigns is actually in the movie. But let's move on and let's get into the coffee shop, AEW Dynamite. I would say this was my favorite show of the week. Even though I don't have much listed on here, there was a lot of good threads kind of throughout the show. Kind of similar to the earlier when Moody had talked about over in the flagship store with the World Heavyweight title story. It's only been like 2-3 weeks that they've actually really amped up this Anarchy in the Arena stadium match that they annually do. But within the last couple of weeks, they've really made it a little interesting within what they've been doing. This week, the show started off with Swerve, Joe, and Powerhouse Hobbs getting the win over the Young Bucks and Moxley in a 6-man tag match. Very entertaining match. we ended up, I feel like if I remember correctly, we did end up getting a clean finish. So that was also really good and entertaining. And then obviously at the end of the match, once the match is over, the faces were celebrating, and then they eventually get jumped by the rest of the Death Riders. Then that slowly brings out Kenny Omega, and then it slowly brings out other people, and then they eventually get, back to brawling and whatnot, and that was a really good way and fun way to start the show. You also had Hangman and Will Ospreay have a bit of a promo battle to start the show as well. I didn't want to mention that. Good promo. I thought it was a little weird that he said, like, I want Hangman to bring his best. I'm like, no shit, Sherlock. He's going to do that. Like, what do you expect him to do? Like, what has he... That just felt a little weird, but I don't necessarily find Will Ospreay to be a really that good of a promo. But nonetheless, that was good. I also did like to get back into the Swerve, Joe Hobbs, and the Death Riders Anarchy in a Stadium matchup that's going to happen this weekend. Again, carried out through the storyline because, again, Joe had mentioned that, hey, by the end of the night, I'm going to get that ass on the Young Bucks and everybody else. Like, we going to beat that ass before the show's over by the end of the night. Get to the end of the show, you see the Young Bucks backstage, and they're getting interviewed by Renee, and they got their luggage. They're ready to head out, and they be like, oh, Joe is a big fat-ass liar. Look, we're still good. We're about to head out, and we're all good. Peace out. We'll catch y'all at Double or Nothing. As they're walking out, Renee's trying to just talk it, send it back to the commentary booth. And you can see in the background who pops out behind of a curtain. Samoa Joe with a trash can, and then they start getting the brawling again. And then you get round two of the brawl that started early in the night to end the night. And I thought that was a good bookend of the show and a nice threading of the needle, threading of a storyline from beginning of the show to the end of the show. So again, for a match that, again, you could probably assume that this was going to happen because it happens annually, but it was announced pretty late within, like, again, the last 2 weeks or so. Done a good job for getting me hyped up to see this match. And you'll see in the predictions what we think about it. Will's passion always comes through his promos, even if he stumbles with his words or is decently repetitive. I enjoy Hangman's more. Agreed. Again, he's not the best. I'm not saying he's terrible. It's just like, I'm like, when you got someone else like Hangman, I'm like, all right. Again, me and Moody have talked about this, and I don't know if he's looked at my predictions because I filled them out already, but we've had some differing opinions. I've made some surprise switches in my predictions, and and this is not even to get a pull. This is not even for the points. This is like a genuine, like a changing of opinion at the last second. So we'll get to that when we get to the predictions. But again, not like I said, if I had to put it, I'll put it as a mid-rising because, again, I was interested. I'm still interested in this match. This is the hardest match to predict. I think this is a genuine coin toss. And I think the promo at the end, I think it did its job. It made you feel like, okay, this literally can go to either Hangman or Will Ospreay. And so, again, AEW did the best job this week as far as producing the best wrestling television show. And then also between the go-home shows of, well, I guess you can count Raw, SmackDown go-home shows, but specifically between NXT, AEW Dynamite was the better go-home show of a pop-up show compared to NXT this week. Other thing that I liked in this show, and this was another promo, this was Mercedes Moné and the Jamie Hayter promo. I thought that was done really well. I thought a lot of what Jamie Hayter said had very valid points. And again, me and Moody, we were like, okay, yeah, it's going to be Mercedes. It's going to be Mercedes. It's going to be Mercedes. Guess early spoiler, I can tell you this. I think I might flip on this. I have some reasoning that I'll explain when we get to the prediction point, but I'm leaning towards Jamie Hayter. That she gets the surprise win over Mercedes Moné. I don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but I just feel like Jamie Hayter is, I think she made an interesting comment when she talked about how, like, her legacy or what's in her future is for her to, like, basically crumble down and kind of lose everything. And so obviously she has like 4 or 5 belts right now, or 3 or 4 belts right now. So, I mean, you're not going to hold those belts forever. So she's right in the long-term theory. It's just how long is that theory going to play out? But nonetheless, they did a great job of, again, for something that you could have felt was like, oh yeah, Mercedes got this in the bag. It's going to be Mercedes versus Tony. Jamie Hayter, the last couple weeks, and then now with this final promo on the go home, I'm like, hey, you've done enough to sway my opinion that you actually have a chance to win this match. So that was also something that I really enjoyed. It's important for Tony's POV, which is more important storytelling, Hangman, or in-ring wrestling Osprey. Totally get that. Totally get that. Appreciate the co-host. The French Fry Fro still in effect. Love that. Going through to see if anything stuck out of the AEW Go Home show. MJF officially signs with the Hurt Syndicate. Again, checkpoint reached. Not gonna be leaguer the point. They do have a Hurt Syndicate do have a match with the Sons of Texas. Again, I agree with Bleacher Report as I'm quickly skimming through this. While this Hurt Syndicate versus Sons of Texas match has been rushed, Dustin did a good job of selling what it means to him. I think he did because Dustin is a legend. He's a pro's pro. Cut a great promo. I was surprised to see this match being booked. Again, I was just kind of going through the Wikipedia of just getting the card set up for the document to get our predictions ready. I was like, oh, I didn't even realize, because the Hurt Syndicates feel like they've been in their own island of just kind of dealing with MJF. They really haven't been kind of feuding with any kind of other tag team. So I was like, oh, they got a tag team championship match against the Sons of Texas, Dustin and Sammy Guevara. So it doesn't seem like, unless MJF just immediately becomes shady and then screws them, it's going to be hard to see the Sons of Texas getting that win. Ricochet getting the win over Anthony Bowens. That was cool. And then Mina Shirakawa getting a W over Julia Hart. That was also really entertaining. That was an entertaining match as well. Yeah, that was but overall, I thought it was a great show for AEW. I thought it was entertaining. While I might not have things listed out specifically, I definitely do think this show kept my attention more so than any other shows of the weekend. And it did its job of getting me hyped up for a go home show. Like I said, this was the best go home show that was put out for the week. This is the best wrestling show of the week. So shout out to AEW for Dynamite. You get the show of the week. That's not an official thing, but we can't make it an official thing. We'll talk about it. Now we can go on to the book of wrestling. And we are at the book of wrestling, and I'm disappointed in you, French Fry Fro. I get it. You want me to watch these matches, but you gave me 3 book of wrestling matches that have nothing to do with this week. None. All of them are in like different time periods. If you're gonna give some matches, you gotta have at least some of these matches. Got to be within time, bro. That's all I gotta say. I'm calling you out. That's what I'm saying. You gave me 2 30-minute matches. I did not get to see both of them. I feel like I saw the Daniel Bryan, Zack Sabre Jr. one, and when it happened. So that one I'm a little bit more familiar with, but I will go back and rewatch that one. I did start the Mike Oku and Speedball, but I didn't finish it. I think I fell asleep while I was watching that. That was not because it was boring. That is yeah, but you gave me 3 this week that were all completely at different times. And I didn't get a single actually book of wrestling that was a fact that was for this week. So that's on you. That's on you. You've taken ownership of the book of wrestling. You got to at least give me one. You got to give me one fact for this week. But I will go back and rewatch the Mike Oku. We had 2. He added 3 matches here. I'll go in. The first one he did was January 10th, 2023. AEW Wrestle Dream, Daniel Bryan versus Zack Sabre Jr. Comments that he left was real modern graps, all caps with 2 exclamation points. They have a rematch to this in New Japan, and it's just as good, might be better. Best scraps match I could think of since Angle Benoit submission match. So very high remarks from the French Fry Fro in regards to this match. And I remember when this match happened. It'd be a good time. It'd be a good rewatch to have because it's not sitting fresh in my mind, but I do remember seeing it in real time, and then just the conversations around it saying that was one of the best matches ever. So shout out to them. 11/21, November 21st, 2021. Rev Pro Uprising. Mike Oku defeats Speedball Mike Bailey. This is also, and we'll add this all to our YouTube playlist for our Book of Wrestling matches of the week or whatever we call these things. But some Moody comments. The heir apparent to the Osprey as the best British wrestler is Mike Oku, and more impressed than I thought I would be. I'm curious to see this match, especially when you say this is the best British wrestler. I'm like, a black man being the best British wrestler? Okay. You got my ears, so I'm definitely going to go back and watch these. But these are both about 30-minute matches, so I got to definitely dedicate some time to watch these. The one match that I did watch is this dumbass DDT Wrestling Kota Ibushi versus Yoshihiko. And it's really just a dude versus a blow-up doll. And it's just like, first of all, props to Ibushi, I believe that was the one, but this was it was very impressive, the athletic feats to be able to pull off this stuff with this blow up doll, and be able to kind of get get a lot of the ring work and done. He was doing a lot of flipping. Obviously, it's all him selling, and so he did a good job of doing this of storytelling. This is still one of the stupidest shits ever. This is worse than I would say than fighting the Invisible Man. This is worse. I would say this is, if I was a paying customer and I went to see this, I'd be pissed. I'm already pissed off thinking about like y'all spent TV time storytelling this. Like this is, I would have been pissed off. But from athletic and just from being able to do this and actually tell a cohesive story in the match, I'm like, all right, it's pretty impressive. But in general, this is one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. So shout out to that. But comments, about time for another comedy intro. About time. It was like 2 weeks ago we had the comedy intro. It felt like when we had the invisible match. But I'm here for them. I just thought this was hilariously stupid. And I'm pretty sure Kenny Omega fights a broom at the same promotion for a match. Again, the Japanese people, I appreciate that you guys are so open to your wrestling entertainment and you're not like stuck ups like I am, because I can enjoy it, but I'm just like, man, am I really sitting here watching this man wrestle a broom or wrestling himself, Invisible Man, or wrestling a blow-up doll? Like, come on now. We ain't got nobody here. But nonetheless, it was still entertaining and funny, but yeah, it's also very stupid at the same time. Moody, thank you for adding an actual fact. I assume this is 2027 SmackDown. I could look it up for the actual date, but WWE SmackDown brand presented Backlash pay-per-view from Allstate Arena in Chicago, Illinois. The main event saw one of the most surprising champions in WWE history crowned when Jinder Mahal beat Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. No one would have ever expected, but never hindered Jinder, man. Shout out to Jinder Mahal, man. It's actually pretty entertaining, but again, I can understand. But people will be like, again, people will just be over the top with like feeling like, oh my god, this you can't eat the legacy of the belt. Okay, man, relax. It's just a fucking prop toy for being merchandise to be sold, so it ain't even that serious. Even I could be overly serious about the WWE title and the legacy, and then like, oh, I don't care about the world heavyweight title. It's all about the undefeated title, whatever they call it right now, because that has all the history. Okay, sure, still a prop toy. So at the end of the day, you can never be too mad about it. Vince and his business in the Indian market, of course, too. I mean, that's why you had not Jinder Mahal, the Great Khali. There's a billion people right there. Of course, you want people to be interested in that in your product, and they see somebody that's like them. That's why we complain when we see black people not getting their just due, because we're like, hey, we watch wrestling too, and we want to see people like us succeed as well. So can't hate on it. And then also, Jinder went through a whole body transformation. Remember, because the first time he was around, he was not looking as ripped and toned as he was when he came back and won the championship. He went through, you could almost say, he could have had a similar trajectory career as Drew McIntyre, because they both were in the same group and they both came back looking ripped as fuck. And so, obviously, Drew, I think, was probably a little bit better of a ring worker. And obviously, I think Jinder elevated some of his promo work, but I think you kind of get pigeonholed in some kind of gimmick sometimes that you don't really get to evolve past just being like, again, I'm the Indian guy, so I got to just stick with a lot of the Indian tropes and stuff like that. The dude is Canadian as well, so like it's not like he can't be both or have a little bit more dynamicness to his character or whatnot. So I think Jinder could work out. It's unfortunate that he's not around anymore because I think he was still getting over it to some degree. But again, that's what happens when they start and stall you all the time. It just sometimes you just kind of you kind of run out of stalls and you kind of just tap out. But nonetheless, thank you, Moody, for coming in at that last second for the with the actual fact from this week, a wrestling fact from this week. I think what will probably eventually be a fact, a book of wrestling fact that we've never actually seen happen before. A couple weeks ago, I believe right after WrestleMania, we got announcement that WWE WrestleMania 42 was going to be in New Orleans. So next year's WrestleMania was going to be in New Orleans. Now, there was a little bit of pushback saying that, like, man, like, WrestleMania was just in New Orleans like a few years ago. Like, how are we going back again? Like, they get WrestleMania all the time. I'm not sure what the reasoning is of why this is happening, but it came out that WWE cancels WrestleMania 2026, number 42, in New Orleans. And there's been rumors going around. I don't know it's official. And the official New Orleans website that also has quotes from the New Orleans Tourism Board, which I've met before. They're really cool people. They say that WrestleMania 42 will be in Las Vegas again next year. That's a bummer if that's true. But I also seen rumors that it will be possibly in an international show, maybe in London, maybe in Canada. So I'm not entirely sure. We don't have any confirmation yet on where WrestleMania next year will be, but they obviously have to figure it out soon. But I mean, if you got less than a year to figure out where you're going to be, we're probably going to be back in Las Vegas unless you are able to kind of switch up the whole set design, because that takes a whole year process for them to even come up with their sets for WrestleMania. So I would not put them past them if WrestleMania 42 was going to be back in Las Vegas, which, again, it's fun. Las Vegas is a fun city. It is feeling like WWE is pricing its core audience base out of a lot of their shows. So it's already confirmed it's in Vegas again. That's a little disappointing, but we'll see. You know, WrestleMania is WrestleMania. It's still going to be an enjoyable show. You just hate that it seems like it's going the UFC route where it's like, hey, Las Vegas is home base, and we're going to do all of our major shows here and whatnot. So, again, you wish there was a little bit more spread out. There could be opportunities. Hopefully, Commanders and DC get the deal done ASAP. They have until June 15 to approve the bill, or not, I guess, approve the bill or approve the deal, so they can officially break ground and start building a new stadium on the RFK land. And once that happens, WrestleMania will be in the DMV. It will be in DC for the first time ever. I guarantee you that will be about 2029 or 2030. So, but nonetheless, surprising news. Like I said, I think this will probably be next year's Book of Wrestling fact, that WrestleMania was changed a year prior. The location of WrestleMania being changed a year prior to WrestleMania happening. We have never seen something like that, so interesting nonetheless. And then they also did mention yesterday, Triple H did announce that WWE will be back in New Orleans next year. They will have Money in the Bank, which, surprising, Money in the Bank next year is going to be August 29th. So a lot of shifting in WWE's calendars of when things are happening. UFC Money in the Bank is the next 2 weeks from now. It's usually a June pay-per-view. There used to be a July pay per view. It's moved around a few, but we've never had it August 29. That's seems like it's gonna be what 2 weeks after SummerSlam, unless they're pushing SummerSlam up. I don't know. Our typical WWE schedules are gonna. It seems like they're gonna be readjusted now, and so we're gonna have to get used to a whole different schedule that we haven't been used to in the last 10 to 20 years. So it's gonna be interesting to see what comes out of that. Finally, let's get up. We're making a great time through this show. We can head straight into the boutique SmackDown. Another mid show. The WWE. Again, no fault. It isn't even anything with the actual wrestling. I think the wrestling is on point. You know what you're gonna get with a lot of these people, with a lot of these matches. You know you're gonna get high quality entertainment wrestling. It's the fact that it seems like a lot of the stories are just kind of running on cruise control. Or again, we're gonna be ending matches with no contest or some shenanigans. And so not very often that we get interesting matches. Not very often we get matches that end with clean, definite endings, and everything feels like it's got to be left with a cliffhanger. And it's like, okay, there's other ways to do cliffhangers than having the typical things that we can easily predict. If I can predict it, why do I gotta watch it? But shout out to a primo that me and Moody both agree is R-Truth's promo. Now, is R-Truth going to win tomorrow? No. I will say tonight for against John Cena, I said initially in our predictions, I had R-Truth because I was like, it's not for the WWE title. What would it be if somebody came out and helped R-Truth, get a surprise win over John Cena? And John Cena could still beat the dog shit out of him after the match because he's like, yo, there's no way you should be beating me. But nonetheless, there's not very often that you get to hear Ron Killings, I'm about to call you by your government name, R-Truth, actually cut like a legit serious promo because he's been a comedy character for the last 15 years. But he cut out a really good promo. He cut a really good promo, and it gave you hype. It makes you believe. And it's going to be heartbreaking to see him get his ass whipped by John Cena tonight. But hey, I don't think it's gonna happen, but I got 5% chance in me that believes that R-Truth could possibly pull it out through some shenanigans. I know I complain about shenanigans. If you're gonna ever have shenanigans in a match, this would be the match that have the shenanigans. Because everybody would love to see R-Truth get a win, especially against John Cena. Now that means that he might have to get a title match down the road at some point, which is probably not going to happen. But man, shout out to R-Truth. That was a really great promo, and people forget before R-Truth became full comedy, dude was a legit good wrestler who could cut good promos, and so it's nice to see that he still has that in his bag. It's like Moxley made Orange Cassidy got serious in his promo versus the Death Riders. Great segment by R-Truth. 100% agree. 100% agree. And again, like I said, it's good to see that he still has it in his bag. Primos. I can agree. Moody has this as a primo. I have this as I'll switch it. I will put the Wyatt 6 return as a primo. And as well, I initially had it as a mid, but I put that as a mid mostly because of the match results. Going back to the Street Profits and Frag Team, I will put as my mid, just because again, great match. We know what those guys are gonna do. Had to end up with some shenanigans with the Wyatt 6 coming out of nowhere and then interfering. So that's why I initially had the Wyatt 6 return as a mid, but it's not really necessarily the Wyatt 6 return being the mid. It's more so that they interfered, and the Frag Team and the Street Profits match was ended up in a no contest. So I will separate those, and so I will put the Wyatt 6 return as a primo. But to Moody's note, not that I have faith in their booking long term, but the return was done really well. It was also on Bray Wyatt's Wyndham Rotunda's birthday, and so there was a great moment where they actually had a birthday cake, and then blinking on the main Wyatt 6 guy, his brother's name, Bo. Bo ended up, saying this is for you, Bray, or something in regards to Bray before blowing out the candles, like they will blow out the lantern, and that was the end of the show. But uh, yeah, great to see them back. I know there was a lot of injury concerns, or I don't know exactly the concern, but there was something that was keeping them off the health related, that was keeping them off television. So I was glad to see them back. Um, as far as it gets to the Street Profits and Fraxium, I don't know what's going to happen. It feels like Fraxium is still going to have that rocket ship tied to their back. At the end of the day, all this tells me is that the Street Profits are just going to basically going to drop it to one of these teams in the next couple weeks or in the next month or so. So that's going to be unfortunate for them, but it's nice to see the Wyatt six pack, and hopefully they are able to be consistent members of television, and we see them a little bit more often than we have. Speaking of matches, or not even matches, but seeing them connected on television, Bo Dallas had a separated shoulder. That's what held him up. Okay, yeah, okay. I knew it was something health related. I wasn't sure if it was like, like a physical muscle injury, like you said, a separated shoulder, or like it was like something like, I had like pneumonia or something like that. French Fry said, but I predicted, we knew it would have to happen after Mania when they showed up. Again, agreed. I'm curious though. I really enjoyed my mid rising was the Alexa Charlotte Tiffany promo. I'm assuming that's your ditto as well, Moody, as far as what you enjoyed. If I having that as a mid, I'm gonna assume that. I thought all three women cut really good promos. I thought Alexa really cut a good promo talking about how she wants to win, how she's cashed in the Money in the Bank briefcase, and how she did it against Nia as well. Obviously, Charlotte doing her Charlotte thing. Tiffany, taking pop shots again. Tiffany, there's a vibe to her that I understand. I think her mic work is still kind of like childish in a way, but it works with the character. I wish there could be a little bit more bass in her voice when she says it. It kind of seems like you saying it when you're afraid to get you sound like you're afraid to get your ass whipped when you say a lot of the shit that you say. So it kind of, for me, it feels kind of hollow, some of the words that you say, some of the promo, but nonetheless, it was still overall a good promo. And again, Alexa and Charlotte, they've kind of teased a little bit of a relationship, or at least Alexa was trying to get with it. Charlotte was like, why would we do that? But it'd be interesting to see if anything kind of comes out of fruition. Charlotte was in a Money in the Bank qualifying match right after this promo segment with Julia getting her SmackDown debut match with a Money in the Bank qualifier match. She ended up winning against Charlotte and Zelina Vega. Don't like that Zelina Vega is taking the pin there. And yeah, the vintage line was cool, but it's also like, girl, you are. I mean, like, that's coming. That was something rich coming from someone that's only been around for a year, and it's like, okay, you definitely got someone. You definitely got the push behind you, So if this was a little bit more organic, I would believe it, but. It's a little too rich for me when this is like, oh yeah, this is like you got the music, like the music industry behind like a certain artist that you're like, where do they come from? You're like, oh, they're connected with Sony Music Group, and they got all of these producers and everything, like that they got like millions of dollars behind them, that you're like, oh, okay, yeah, of course you're going to be in this position. So that's where I'm like, it feels a little hollow. Honestly, Tiffany is more vintage. If she's talking vintage, she's also vintage when you compare her to other wrestlers like Rhea Ripley and stuff like that. So again, not to hate Tiffany. I enjoy Tiffany. I just think there's definitely some improvements that could be made on that side. Money in the Bank, another Money in the Bank qualifying match was Julia and LA Knight. So Julia got the win over Zelina Vega. Obviously, Zelina Vega is not going to get the win in there because she is United States Women's Champion. So probably not going to have her also win Money in the Bank as well. But nonetheless, it was still a good match, and Julia got the win. Somebody had to take the pin. Surprised that Charlotte was in the match. Not surprised, but it was surprising, I guess, she didn't get the win. But apparently, there is a rumor that Charlotte is still supposed to be in the match, but I don't know if that's going to happen anymore. And then also, LA Knight is also qualified for the Money in the Bank. This one was a little bit more predictable because we know that Aleister Black and Shinsuke have been feuding the last few weeks, or at least been trading verbal spars. So the fact that Aleister Black hits the Black Mask on Shinsuke, LA Knight comes in, throws Aleister Black out the ring, and gets the 1-2-3. Kind of predictable. Gets LA Knight into the Money in the Bank qualifying Money in the Bank match, which he should be a really good, entertaining guy for what he's able to do. And then obviously that's just going to lead us into a Shinsuke Nakamura versus Aleister Black match, which I'm also going to be intrigued by. So I'm looking forward to both those matches, and both the men's and the women's Money in the Bank matches are looking very promising right now. I lean a little bit more to the women's side as far as which one I'm interested in. But I'm also looking forward to that Aleister Black and Shinsuke Nakamura match, knowing that Shinsuke is probably going to take that L, though, it's still going to be a really fun match. Last bit for SmackDown. Wait, got some notes from Moody. Was surprised Charlotte was in the match. Tiff called her out being a hypocrite and trying to win. See, that's the line. I didn't like that. Tiff calling her a hypocrite for being, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. You do not want me to get a championship title match? Like, that's just more of the scaredy cat. You sound more scared than an actual tough person when you say shit like that. So that's where I kind of find it hard to take that a little bit more seriously, because I'm like, it goes back to when they had their original like unscripted verbal spar, and then Tiffany was just like said the thing about like, being on 3 husbands or 3 divorces or whatever, and then just kind of like tossed the mic and just kind of dipped out the ring. I'm like, oh, you scared. You legitimately scared. And so again, I'm like, I hear the tremble in her voice a lot when I hear it. That's all I'm saying. Okay, that's what people do. But again, to me, it's not even just within this context of this episode, this promo, where I'm like, it just seems a bit consistent. Where I'm like, there's not a lot of bass. There's a lot of, I hear a lot more tremble than I hear bass in her voice when she makes a lot of these claims. So that's all I'm saying. My last thing that I want to talk about SmackDown before we get into these pop-up show predictions is B-Fab and Michin defeating the Secret Service. Glad to see B-Fab and Michin on TV. Glad to see that B-Fab is actually getting the ring experience in the ring again with Chelsea, with the Secret Service. And she had a pretty nice finishing move with that like modified neck breaker into like a kind of a face plant. That was pretty dope. So I like to see them get the win, and I like to see potentially somehow maybe work their way into an actual tag team. At least get them something, because again, they're both really entertaining to watch, and I like to see B-Fab, especially the up and downs that she's had from going from like, Hit Row to losing Hit Row to being released to coming back to being with Street Profits and doing like a lot of jumbling. But you've been hearing from everyone in the backstage that like, they're really high and they really appreciate the effort and the seriousness that she takes her she's taking her opportunities with this. And so I just want to see more from B-Fab and Michin, whether it be in singles or as a tag team, but give them more TV time. So I'm glad they got this win, and hopefully this is the beginning of, similar to the Wide Six, sometimes we see them a little bit more frequent on TV rather than every blue moon, and be like, oh, look, nice to see y'all back. So that's it for me on the SmackDown Boutique, and now we can head over to these pop-up shows. And I do not have the pop-up shows titles on the names below, so I will kind of just go with the banner without the banner. But let's get into these predictions, and we'll start off with the one that doesn't matter, which is tonight, as far as counting. We have Saturday night's main event on NBC at 8 o'clock, also on Peacock probably. 5 matches. We also got 1 match put up last night. I do not like that when you have 2-3 weeks to promote all this stuff, and then 3 days before the 3 days before the match, you just like, oh yeah, let's add one more match. It's like, thank you. And I appreciate that Zelina Vega is getting the spotlight, but I'm like, again, this is almost we forget that, oh yeah, we have a United States champion, or oh yeah, we have these women's titles. It's WWE's got to be better with some of this. And AEW, you're not off the hook. You did the same shit too, so I got problems with you as well with doing that shit. But 5 matches, pretty easy to kind of predict this one. At least me and Moody, we are pretty much in agreement in all of this. We have Jey Uso defeating Logan Paul. We have CM Punk. We have Seth and Braun getting the wins over CM Punk and Sami Zayn. I initially had R-Truth getting the win over John Cena, just because I was like, hey, there is no championship being defended here, so why not give R-Truth the win? But I just don't see it happening, because if R-Truth gets the win, you're eventually going to have to give him a title shot. And it's like, do we really want to stretch this out for 2 weeks? 2 more weeks until like Money in the Bank? I don't know, but you never know. But I think it's pretty safe to say that John Cena is going to go get this win. Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre in a steel cage match. I was going to lean with Drew, but a couple things to point out that I thought was interesting. Drew beat Damian at WrestleMania, so Damian has a reason to get his lick back. And then also, it recently came out that Drew McIntyre is injured and cannot really, I believe, turn his head left completely all the way. So he is working completely. He's working injured right now. And so with that, this could give him a good excuse that he would be on possibly losing this match, but then also give him a way to be written off TV to get some time to actually recover and heal his neck and be able to come back stronger. Sorry for people. I'm sitting outside on the balcony, so there is someone that is singing very loud. But don't worry, we're almost done. And then, yes, Moody, late-ass match that was added. Zelina Vega versus Chelsea Green for the United States Women's Championship. We both picked Zelina. And so, yes, they are, Moody. They are praising God, getting in early. I think it might be a male woman. But nonetheless, yes, that is Saturday night's main event. A pretty easy card to predict. I think, if anything, that I would be surprised. The only surprises I would say that could probably happen are probably, I mean, either way, I think all of these could probably be flipped. And you can rationally flip any one of these matches, honestly, if you think about it. I could see Logan Paul somehow winning this match. CM Punk and Sami Zayn can easily beat Seth and Braun, though this is Seth and Braun's like first match together, I believe. Maybe second. But, like I said, I've made my case for why I can see R-Truth possibly beating John Cena. Drew McIntyre could definitely beat Damian Priest. And then Chelsea Green with the Secret Service could possibly, get her title back. But, now that Zelina also has B-Fab and Michin, it kind of evens out. So you don't have to really worry about the shenanigans there. So, again, this Saturday night's main event, we're just making predictions just to make predictions. They don't count to the actual official scoring. So that's kind of like a little appetizer for us to get into these predictions. Let's get into NXT Battleground. This one was a little bit tougher. Not tougher, but I think I had an easy opportunity. I feel like I have the edge on any match that that Hank and Tank are in. Because I don't think Moody will ever pick Hank and Tank to win. So anytime I feel like they're gonna win, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll take Hank and Tank because I know he ain't gonna take that match. But I think we might end up okay. First match is Tony D versus Channing Stacks Lorenzo. I flirted real hard with taking Tony D here, but I'm gonna have to agree with Moody. I'm gonna go with Stacks, and I think my prediction here is, I think Tony D loses his family, and the family sides with Stacks here, and so I think you'll see Tony D be by himself, and Channing Stacks is going to end up getting the new family, and so kind of like Judgment Day, a bit of a transition. you'll still have the family, but that family ends up being with Stacks, and Tony D is going to be out on his own and kind of have to, reinvent himself in a certain way. Never say never, but never. That's a good call. That's a good call. But yeah, we both agreed. Channing Stacks wins the match over Tony D. Next match, Hank and Tank and Josh Briggs versus The Culling, Brooks Jensen, Nico Vance, and Sean Spears. Now, Sean Spears on NXT got the win over. Moody thinks it's time for Tony to get called up. I could possibly see that happening as well. Tony D, Sean Spears got the win over Josh Briggs over NXT this week. Again, and you got the NXT Tag Team Champions here. Thank you for the win, Moody. I'll take this win. Hank and Tank. I got Hank and Tank and Briggs over the Culling. Moody's got the Culling. And honestly, that is pretty much the only difference we have on the rest of this card. We both have Joe Hendry retaining the TNA World Championship. Though I have seen a lot of predictions online that think Trick Williams is going to win this match. And I'm like, that would be a real, I can understand it happening, but first of all, I think Trick should be called up in the draft. I think the draft happens next week. If not, it should be starting near at the end of the month. So it might start on Friday and then go into on Friday Night SmackDown and then get into Monday Night Raw. But I will find it I would be personally upset if WWE has Joe Hendry lose at WrestleMania, then lose his TNA World Championship on a WWE show to a WWE guy. I can't make that prediction. It doesn't make sense to me. I gotta agree with my guy Moody. I gotta go Joe Hendry here. NXT Women's North American Championship, Sol Ruka versus Kalani. We both win Sol Ruka. I would not be surprised to see Kalani win this though, especially with again what I've been saying the last few weeks. There's been a lot of misunderstanding between Zarya and Sol Ruka, and so this would be an interesting way if, again, you have another one of those misunderstandings at this point by now, where maybe Zarya ends up costing Sol Ruka her championship. Though it just feels like Sol Ruka just won it, so I kind of want her to hold it a little bit longer. Though, again, it'd be interesting to see what happens. Hopefully, Zarya just keeps her ass on the back and just lets these two women work. And if that happens, I think Sol Ruka ends up getting the win. So we agree upon that. Miles Bourne, congratulations. You have an NXT Championship title match under your belt. And you're going to be owning one of those matches coming out of this with Obafemi. Jasper Troy, you might try to interfere, but maybe that's after the match. But Obafemi is Obafemi. I don't think that happens. But nonetheless, congratulations, Miles Bourne, for actually getting this opportunity. And again, I predict that, Charlie Dempsey, I don't trust you. As soon as he won the number one contendership match, he tried to take he's just like, oh no, I'm taking that. I'll take that opportunity to face Obafemi at Battleground. He was like, nah, B, I got this. Maybe you could face him on NXT the following week, but you ain't gonna take my spot at Battleground. So I think there's a little bit of friction right there between them, and I think I could see Charlie Dempsey I could see this match being Miles Bourne looking real close, like he might get this W on Obafemi, but then Charlie Dempsey coming out and doing some fuck shit and costing Miles Bourne the match, and then you kind of end up getting them into a feud as well. So that's my prediction for that match. And then finally, Stephanie Vaquer versus Jordan Grace for the NXT Women's Championship. We both have Stephanie Vaquer. Now, I also have seen a lot of people pick Jordan Grace to win this because some people feel that, hey, maybe it is time to have Stephanie Vaquer move up to the main roster, which, again, wouldn't be too surprised. But, again, you just kind of called up Roxanne and Julia, especially Julia and Stephanie both came in like nearly around the same time. So to have them all kind of have those three women all come up at the same time, it seems a little bit much. Not to say that Stephanie doesn't deserve to be up there or can't go up there right now. It's just, just keeping things balanced. it will be nice to have Stephanie versus Jordan Grace end up it being a little bit more of a little bit of a rivalry, a little bit longer. Not so I can see Jordan. I can still even see Jordan Grace winning and Stephanie still being. I don't necessarily think it needs to necessarily mean that Stephanie needs to lose for her to like be to get called up. I think she can lose and still be on the show, but I think there's a lot of buzz around her right now that they're going to keep, and a lot of popularity that they're going to keep the title on Stephanie. So we are disagreeing on one match, and that one match is going to always give me that win when it's Hank and Tank in that match. So I'm hoping this works out my way, and I get a point here for NXT Battleground. So those are our predictions for NXT Battleground. And then let's finally get into the biggest card of the week, AEW Double or Nothing. And yes, Moody, I'll let you know this. There was AEW did the same fuck shit that WWE did with Saturday Night's main event by adding a last minute match. The Paragon, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong versus the Don Callis family and Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, and Josh Alexander. So if you want to put in your predictions for that, I'll wait as I go through the card. But we'll start off with the top and the 2025 Women's Owen Hart Foundation Tournament Final. Jamie Hayter versus Mercedes Moné. Now, for the past month, ever since almost this tournament had started, we have predicted Mercedes to win this match, this tournament, and be on our way to fight Timeless Toni Storm for the for the AEW Women's Championship. Moody has Mercedes winning this tournament. He has not faltered. I, on the other hand, have faltered in the last minute, and this is not purely out of trying to get points. This is me genuinely believing that I think Jamie Hayter has made compelling claims and has shown well the last few weeks that she could beat Mercedes and get this win. Her promo on Dynamite this past week was really compelling as well, talking about Mercedes. She's her in her premonition is basically her losing all of her titles and her downfall. And I think it'll be a good look for her. Again, Mercedes, she has 3 or 4 titles, and also the non-kayfabe aspect of it. She's also TBS Women's champion as well, and it's kind of the same kind of logic as Zelina with the United States Women's Championship. Find it very hard for you to also get the Money in the Bank briefcase as well, and just kind of tying all that up in the same kind of that same kind of universe. So I'm gonna go with Jamie Hayter getting this match, and maybe Mercedes ends up losing the TBS title at some point later down the line. Again, Mercedes can easily jump into the world title match at any point. She's she's a CEO. She, it's not saying she doesn't need it, but from a character's perspective, it fits her to have that title. But I'm gonna go with Jamie Hayter in this matchup. AEW World Tag Team Championship. The Hurt Syndicate versus the Sons of Texas. Dustin Rhodes versus Sammy Guevara. We are both going with the Hurt Syndicate here. Though I would not be surprised if I agree. It seems it's tough to carry the TBS and the AEW what she wins, assuming she wins. Yes, exactly. But again, that's also a storyline. That doesn't really need to prevent her from winning the Owen Hart tournament. You could still win the Owen Hart tournament and still lose the matchup against Toni Storm for the AEW Women's title. But I guess it makes it a little bit more predictable that she probably would lose, because you're like, I don't want her to hold 2 of the women's titles and having all the storylines just funneled through her. But I mean, hey, what's her face? Stephanie Vaquer was a NXT Women's Champion and NXT North American Champion at the same time. So she was able to do it for a couple weeks before having to relinquish the other title. So, never say never, but never. But yeah, Sons of Texas, Dustin and Sammy versus the Hurt Syndicate. We both have the Hurt Syndicate, though. Is there a chance that MJF immediately turns on the Hurt Syndicate and costs them their belts? Sure. But again, this matchup, I
have no problem with Dustin and Sammy winning AEW Tag Team Championships. It just seems to come out of nowhere. So, I think there just needs to be a little bit more storytelling between the Hurt Syndicate and MJF, and to immediately jump. I know I've been saying the last couple of weeks, like, we're reaching checkpoints. Like, we need to see something that kind of pushes the relationship. I think there still needs to be a little bit more relationship building with the Hurt Syndicate and MJF, rather than immediately having them cost them the match. Because what is it going to do eventually? Like, it's still very early in the storyline, so that's why I think we're both going with the Hurt Syndicate. AEW Women's Championship: Toni Storm versus Mina Shirakawa. Keeping the belt on Toni. Toni is on the pathway to face whoever she's going to be facing at the as the winner of the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. So in my case, it would be Jamie Hayter, and Moody's case is going to be Mercedes. FTR over Daniel Garcia and Nigel McGuinness. We are the same in that. We are the same in that respect. We believe FTR will do this because, hey, they just became heels recently, and they just they begged Nigel McGuinness to come out and from behind the commentary table and kind of get this ass whipping. So I think that exactly what plays out. You kind of just continue to build up the bad guys. Stretcher match: Mark Briscoe versus Ricochet. Love you, Mark Briscoe, but Ricochet's been doing some great heel work, and I think he ends up getting we both end up thinking he ends up getting the win in this case. So Ricochet, FTR, Timeless, Hurt Syndicate, we are in agreement. So far, only one disagreement, and that's the women's Owen Hart final. Our other disagreement that we have right now is the Anarchy in the Arena. I have the faces and Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland, Willow, and the Ops over the Death Riders. And Moody has the heels. So there is a possibility of us ending in a tie, or possibly at this current point, either ending in a tie or someone's getting a definite win. The newest match that was added, the Paragon versus the Don Callis family. I got no clue. Moody, this is Moody's response. Thank you for filling this in. I got no clue. The Don Callis family is more over, but the Paragon is irrelevant mostly. He's going with the Paragon. I have no clue either. Like, there's probably a lot of collision stuff, and I'm like, again, you can't be adding this. There's already 9-10 matches on this card, and then you're adding another match 2-3 days before the pay-per-view. Like, that's irresponsible and that's unfair. So maybe you could blame me for maybe not watching as much Collision as I need to be, but that ain't the main show. So it's if I had to make my pick, I'm gonna go with, I feel like the Don Callis family has been taking a lot of L's recently in their matches, and so I'm gonna go Don Callis family. Though this is honestly a toss-up, but honestly, I couldn't care less, because I mean, this is what happens when you throw a match 2 days on before the pay-per-view. So that was genuinely surprising to open the match list and see that they added another match to the show that's already going to be about 3 hours long. I already saw the Mission Impossible movie, and that's 3 hours long, so I can't imagine how long this is going to be. AEW Continental Championship: Kazuchika Okada versus Mike Speedball Bailey. We both got Okada. I think we've been on the path that it's going to be Okada versus. We talked about having a what was it, Moody? Combining the Continental title and the International title at some point, and so I think we still believe that possibly happening, and so good luck, the title unification, and so good luck. I think this is going to be one of the best matches on the card, honestly, outside of Hangman Page and Ospreay. But Okada, we both got you getting this win. And then our final match of the card, it is the main event. We officially know this is the main event, the Men's Owen Hart Foundation Cup Tournament. Hangman Page versus Will Ospreay. And I think for the last couple of weeks, we've been saying this is a 50-50 toss-up. And Moody has Will Ospreay in this matchup, and I have Hangman Page. And part of me, I think, when I was thinking about it and I was reading up on certain websites and just kind of keeping up with the news, somebody made a good point where saying Will Ospreay is like kind of like the favorite, but Hangman kind of needs it. And I definitely do think that. I think Will Ospreay is very similar in the Mercedes, where like he can put himself into a title match at any point. I think for Hangman, for the stuff that he's been able to go through this past year, which he's done great work, especially with him and Swerve. I do think this would be a good look for him to get back into that title picture and get this win. So I'm gonna go for that reason. I think for the fact that Hangman needs it more, I'm gonna go with the Hangman over Will Ospreay in this match. But this is a genuine 50-50 toss-up that I have no idea. This will be the best match of the entire weekend, period. Next to Okada and maybe Speedball Mike Bailey. So great card. I don't like that we add pay-per-view matches to at the last second, but nonetheless, that is it. No champions of the week. Been through a lot, so you'll catch us doubled up next week when we come back. But that is it for the Wrestling Re-Up. Great, efficient episode. Thank you for my tag team partner for still being in the chat and providing context to your thoughts. I really appreciate it. And we will be back with y'all next week for episode 47, the Chris Cooley episode. 46, Liddell Betts. Shout out to Liddell Betts. So shout out to both my former Washington Commanders football team football players. Follow us on all social medias, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, X, TikTok, all the places you can find us at the Wrestling Re-Up Pod, and we'll catch y'all next week. Peace, y'all.